everybody for joining us. Talent is core to any organization. However, talent crunch is a much more serious matter and a concern for the businesses and the hiring managers at the work. Also, the learning gaps which exists in our system leads to unemployability. This is very much applicable to the people who are entering into the labor market and holds good even for the people who are part of the labor market as well. The consistent talent gap, which is widening every passing day, is also impacted by the changes in the skill sets. Automation, mechanization, and digitalization has been the catalyst for the ever-evolving skill sets. As we emphasize on the skills and the competency gaps, the workplace dynamics and the business objectives too influences the talent strategy. Productivity, soaring hiring costs, and engagement are some of the outcomes of the talent deficit. And when I talk about engagement, I'm basically talking about the talent engagement, which today organizations are emphasizing to control their attrition. Increase in marketplace competition and soaring talent cost is also shrinking the profit margins, which is compelling organization to view and develop a tighter talent strategy for businesses, for business continuity, and to have a competitive edge. Organizations are investing in sustainable and inclusive talent development and engagement practices to create a rock-solid workforce and workplace culture which is more enabling and productive. Today, we have a diverse panel comprising of industry stalwarts who are managing large workforce by implementing best talent management practices to attract, develop, nurture, and engage talent through some of very innovative practices. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Abhishek Jha, who is the head of HR for Writers Corporation, Mr. Ashish Kumar, who is the head of corporate affairs, HR, and legal for Dixon Technologies, and Mr. Karthik SM, who is the global talent acquisition head for Biologics. They all bring in a collective experience of over 75 years in designing and implementing talent strategies. Thank you all of you for joining us today and willing to share your experience, opinion, and best practices with us.
Thank you, Sumit.
Great. So I'll begin with my first question, which is, what are the kind of concerns and challenges that your organization faces with regard to talent, and how are you addressing the same? So I'll open the house for anybody to take the initiative and get started.
All right. Hi, Sumit. So I'll just kind of, start and then pass it on to Abhishek and Ashish. Specifically, as in if you, look at the industry we are in, we are a biosimilars organization in the pharma space. Most of the time, our challenges have been in attracting science, people with science and general management skills, right? So that's been a challenge, throughout. And of course, the other thing I can think of is top talent retention, right? So this is not just common to our industry, but I think across industry. So these are the top two challenges what we have, and probably might just cover some of the things what we at Biologics do to kind of mitigate the same. So we know that to get a science plus general management skills is going to be an issue. So what we've started doing is that we have brought in very strong interventions, through our training teams to ensure that we go to the top colleges, bring in the top students and invest in the early talent. That's been, one of our strategy for the last 2 years, right? So in a year, we hired close to about 150 odd campus recruits and take them through a training program, so which lasts up to about 6 months. That has really helped us, and this is, like I said, mostly we hire science students. So now the training is an all-round training and understanding the business plus, focusing more on the other aspects. I spoke about, the retention. So it's just not top talent retention, retention across, the organization. Some of the things what we've started doing is we've said that, we will promote internal talents, right? So we have a separate team which focuses on internal mobility. I think that is key. It's we all know that, hiring bringing a new person into the organization is really going to cost a lot of money. So while the focus is on hiring, so it's also the retention. So we've started. We marked certain levels in the organization, right? So we have about 16 levels in our organization. We've said that we will not go external for certain levels. So we will promote our internal talent. To begin with, this year we've said that our entry level, begins at a level 3. So we said that we are not going to go and hire, people from the market. So we will, move people internally. So one of the things what has worked very well for us is the NAPS apprenticeship program, NATS. So, we hired close to about 200 odd graduates, students, who come and join us apprentices, and then we ensure that we provide them the right amount of learning and training. I think the whole idea of the program is to teach, and then we give an opportunity for them to kind of fill up these roles. The same thing applies with the campus as well. A lot of time, money goes into investing in training. I'm not going to talk about the different training programs, but we've got a list of training programs, for the early talent, so that we kind of build versus buy when it comes to attracting talent in the organization. I'll join the rest later, so maybe I'll just pass it on to others.
Sure, I think that was a very interesting, facts that you were just mentioning. But Karthik, you did mention that it's the talent that you engage with is very expensive. But consider that, there's a scarcity of talent. You do invest a lot in the campus, hiring as well. But you are still bound to hire people from outside as well, or hire people from outside as well. How is that impacting or do you think that has an impact on your profit margins as well? Because we see that a lot happening, at least in the IT space, you being, again, a very specialized, industry, So do you also face that crunch or that heat because of the talent cost going up?
No, exactly. And I think the problem is same in our industry as well, right? So that's one reason I was telling, or rather as an organization, we are focusing more on early talent. But yes, the challenge is real. To get an experienced resource at lateral hiring, especially in our industry with biosimilars experiences, is a tough job. But we left with no choice, and we can't run an organization with just developing talent internally, right? So we do go out, and that is a cost to the organization. So we spend a bit of a money in getting them, and that's where I was mentioning the point that what we do is we think twice before we go external. We've tried to restructure our career model in a way that we promote internal talent more, right? So we have a bunch of talent internally. So do we need to go out all the time, right? So we have a new team, which focuses on internal mobility, which is called, as in our organization, it is new, but some of the IT sectors use it, the demand management and supply planning, right? So the resource management or a DMNSP team. So ideally what this team does is, every time we get a requisitions, we go back and question ourselves, do we need to go external, to get this? Can we move? Can we train some of our folks to kind of get there? And that's when I mentioned that there are certain levels we've said that we will not go external. We will actually nurture, develop the talent within the organization. That has helped. But yes, of course, we do go out. I would say about 40-50% of the hiring happens in the space, the experience or the lateral space. So we do go hire people from competition and other organizations with similar experience.
Sure, great, thanks. What about you, Ashish? What are the kind of concerns and challenges your organization faces, considering that you are quite a labor-intensive organization and you do have a different the whole spectrum of hiring at different levels and different cadre of people as well. So what are some of the challenges and concerns that you have, and how are you kind of mitigating that?
So thank you, Sumit. As I say, talent retention is one of the key challenges we all across the industry face. And I say that Dixon is no exception to that. However, what we do and how do we cater to it, I'll quickly try and touch upon some of the things that we have done in order to see that there are less attrition and more of retention. So some of the things that we have initiated and how we try to overcome that challenge is by way of improving the skill level and capability of the workforce. And how do we do it? It starts so we divide the whole thing. We a large labor intensive organization with a workforce of close to 20 odd thousand, including both on roll and contract manufacturer. So to manage such a large force and to retain it, of course, we have to deploy different kind of uh, 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 tools. And one of the tools that we have applied is improving the skill levels and capability, as I was talking. And it was pertaining when we talk about the contract manpower. What we do is it starts from day one when they join the organization. We have a very well laid out induction process, which is exhaustive in terms of having both classroom training as well as OGT training for the workforce that joins us in large number, which is also duly followed by certification of the workman, specifically for the CTP and CTQ stages. Also, what one is experimenting and trying to develop across our various, we operate across 22 factories across India. So what we do is we trying to develop center of excellences within our units, which will become a learning center for these workers before these are deployed across our various unit. It not only promotes and bring in synergy in the whole system, but also it enhances the stickiness. And also, we continue to focus through various programs like SNAP, and also we are engaging with VWOC, and we get great help with the organization like TeamLease, and also we work very closely with a sector skill council and Ministry of Skill Development to provide jobs also to the youths who are looking for employment, and also to enhance their skills. So the more you enhance, it's one of the ways to giving back to the society, at the same time having a retention for the company. Also, what we do is we also try to address, second way is address some basic hygiene issues, and I'll talk them through. It can be as simple as having a good canteen facility for your workers, a physical condition of your shop floor, ensuring that salaries and wages are paid on time. This can be as simple as that, but it does matter to the workforce. Also, you have to become voice for the customer. And when I say voice for the customer, it is your workforce. So what you have to do is you have to provide a opportunity for them to raise their concern, and it is addressed meaningfully. So we have a HR help desk which is laid out all across our plant. It is during the lunch time. There is a dedicated help desk which is created for them to have and share their whatever their feedback, their grievances, which can be addressed then and there. So that's one of the ways that we are trying, which we say voice of customer, and then develop a trust factor. And what we do is one of the things which we have done a study and felt, especially for large workforce, and I'm now speaking more mainly with regard to work, contract manpower and large workforce. So one pain point what we saw is that when I was talking about the wages, so what one has done is we have created some kind of gold standard in the industry,
Okay.
wherein we have deployed a escrow system of processing the wages, which is strictly monitored so that every penny reaches to the workforce and they are paid in time and looked after and taken care. And various other facilities we are trying to reach out, of course, also with the help of likes of organization like TeamLease and others. And also in-house, we have tried to bring in some of the things which would then give and develop a lot of trust within the organization with such workforce. So these are some of the things that we have taken. And of course, for the on-roll workforce, of course, talent retention continues to be a challenge, but we are proud to say that we have sub level of 2% in our fixed role, retention. So we are one of the lucky people. We have been early and very deep practitioners of e-shops for our, even being a manufacturing company. We have practiced it and we have taken down to a bottom level, which has yielded a great result. And also there is larger focus in empowering people. And we also believe in practicing empathy in true sense and sense of belongingness, and that kind of culture one has tried to create in the organization, and we have got a lot of loyalty of our employees. So that is some of the things that we have done.
So, but I think one more thing you mentioned the other day was also on the reward, that how do you create more motivating culture as well? While I know you talk about the empowerment and trust as part of the culture that you're trying to create for engagement and for the retention, would you also want to throw some light on that reward program that you were mentioning the other day, that
Yeah,
you do for your...
absolutely. So what we have done is we believe in 3R, which is recruitment, reward, and retain, along with the talent development. So of course, reward is one of the key things apart from what we called is material offerings, which is like your salaries and perks. What you do is an employee or a worker, if you recognize them in true sense for the kind of contribution or the hard work, maybe as simple as, let's say, they have come or done a Kaizen, and if you bring them, you put them and put a rigorous reward system across all your units. You create an inter-unit competition also, and recognize them with some monetary and other benefits and some reward system which is scientific in nature, which is practiced well. I think that yields a lot of stickiness as well. So yes, of course, and that is a great motivator, because if a worker sees his picture standing right in front across the factory and the units, and when people are walking across and he's celebrated and complimented, it really gives a lot of motivation. So yes, we do that. And also what we have done is the apprentices and the trainees that they have joined us, they have risen through the ranks. So we give them the opportunity to being absorbed, and also they have got a lateral progress also in the organization, and some of them has become the factory heads as well, grown to that extent. So that also is there. These kind of success stories also there.
Sure. Great. Thanks so much, Ashish. Abhishek, coming to you. I think you also, are representing an organization which is highly labor intensive, but a very different organization, very unique, which is into document management, right? So, and I remember the other day when we were talking about, you said that how the entire corporation is very diverse and they have come together, and obviously there's a diverse needs for talent as well. So would you elaborate on what are the kind of concerns and challenges that you go through, and how are you addressing the same?
Yeah, thanks, Sumit, for inviting me over. And I'd like to extend my warm wishes to Ashish as well as to Karthik as panel members. Yes, you're right, Sumit. We started off as a records management company, but we are no longer just a records management company. We have diversified into several technologically intensive businesses. We are in the BPO segment. We are into cloud and data services. We have a technology services division as well. We are into digitization as well. So, we are in the transformational, stage right now of moving from a pure play vanilla, records management organization into a tech, organization. Now, having said that, yes, I mean, I couldn't, agree more, with what Ashish and Karthik indicated in terms of the challenges. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to writer, the challenges are pretty much the same. But if I were to really kind of, pinpoint on maybe 2 or 3, I think those would be, well, I mean, there is a talent pool available in the market, but good talent is in short supply, Sumit. So the turnaround time for a closure of position has by and large increased. If you were to close a position in, let's say, in X number of days, now today the same position gets closed in X plus 20% or X plus 30% of the time that it used to take earlier. Second, good talent today has got a lot of options. It has many takers, so the offer to joining ratios have really become very lopsided. The OTJ is somewhere between 50 to 60%, and that's a good number in today's times, which means that for every 10 offers that you roll out, you have maybe 5 people or 6 people who will end up coming on board, right? So how really do you plan for, let's say, positions in the organization? And third, compensation ranges are no longer hard coded now, right? So they've become very fluous. So gone are the days when someone with 4 years of experience would be having 2x compensation, where x is equal to the number of years, right? So it used to happen about 10 or 12 years back, where if you had 4 years of experience, 8 lakhs is what typically you would be earning, irrespective of the industry that you would be a part of. Now today, somebody with 4 years of experience is available at 3x, maybe even at 4x. So the range in itself, has become more of a never-ending stretch, right? So I think these are, some of the, challenges that, that we face as knowledge, as knowledge industry, or as an organization that is into the knowledge industry space. And how do we overcome all of this? So our approach has really become very personalized, through the years with candidates. So it's no longer about an opportunity, but the whole experience that a candidate has while discussing the opportunity with us. So on many occasions, it takes us exactly 5 minutes to understand if a candidate makes the cut or not with us. However, we go the whole distance of having a very detailed conversation with them, just to ensure that they get a feeling of us being receptive to them. So we are very, very careful in terms of ensuring that our equity is very strong in the market, and our brand recall, our top of the mind recall, is high amongst candidates. Our pre-joining engagement is getting stronger now with offered candidates. So what's really happening is, we've devised, something called a writer way of onboarding, which gives a great experience to an offered candidate. So just to give an example, when we send out an offer, it's not just a vanilla offer, but the whole content of the offer is such that it gives a very special, sort of look and feel to the offer, right? So we often have our candidates fly down to meet up with us if they're from a different city. Prior to joining, we get them introduced to some of our folks, have lunch or dinner with them. I mean, there's no set agenda. I mean, there's really no obligation for us to call them over, but we still kind of do that because all this investment, kind of makes for a very good pre-joining bond. And especially, in the tech space and even in the quasi-tech space, in the BPO space, with a 50% offer to joining, you better have all of these things, because you really cannot, you're sub-optimizing your recruitment capabilities. If you are basically working for 10 and getting only 5 on board, right? So, these are some of the challenges and the ways that we are overcoming, these.
But Abhishek, you also, I remember in my conversation with you the other day, you did mention some of, again, very fascinating concepts that you work, which is discover to flourish, war for talent. I think these were some of the stuff that you were talking about. So would you want to little elaborate on these concepts that you've been, working on, these initiatives?
Yeah. So, one of the things that we do as part of our WOW onboarding is also to ensure that people get settled very quickly in the organization. And, the whole genesis of settling down in the organization is coming from an understanding that if you don't settle in the first 90 days in an organization, you would perhaps never get settled in that organization. So for us, the first 90 days are very, very critical from an onboarding and from a settling down perspective. So there's a great, I would say, onboarding, slow onboarding or a stretched onboarding process that we have, which continues for 90 days, and this we call as discover to flourish, because when you come into the organization, you discover, but on the 90th day, we make sure that you end up flourishing in the organization. So the whole discover to flourish, basically, takes you through, of course, all the nitty-gritties of the organization, but the way in which it is designed, wherein there's a meet and greet with almost all the stakeholders who are part of the ecosystem, to also, taking you through the cultural assimilation, and also, through the different, kind of, learnings, that would be available for a new joiner. I mean, all of these are basically put across a period of 90 days. You have the KRA settings that happen. There is a whole bunch of, different programs that are laid out. I mean, for us, induction is not a one-day affair. It is really a very stretched out affair. We want to make sure that people kind of really get settled in the first 90 days. There is a continuous feedback that is being taken. In fact, fun fact, Sumit, on the 90th day, we make sure that we sit with our employees, our new joiners, and we ask them if they found anything different on the 90th day than on day one, we want to make sure that we take the best practices that they would have seen from their erstwhile organizations, just to ensure that when they come into the into a new setup, they have they see a lot of similarities, right? So I mean, all of these become part of the Discover to Flourish program.
Fantastic. That's nice. I think that's a very fabulous concept. I think, you take your pace to settle down, so you are, kind of bake well so that you can perform well as well. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
Great. Coming to my second question to all of you is that, what are the factors that an organization should consider while defining the talent strategy, considering that now talent is a very integral part of your overall business strategy, or or an annual business plan that we keep talking about, and this is the time when everybody's actually emphasizing on it. So as we talk about the numbers, it's also about the talent as well. So what are the factors that an organization should keep in mind as they prepare the talent strategy? So Ashish, maybe why don't we start with you this time? What do you think should be some of the factors?
Yeah, so talent strategy for each organization will differ, may differ, depending on the scale of the organization, nature of business, vision and philosophy of each organization. In Dixon, what I reiterated in my earlier, interaction as well, is that we fundamentally are driven by 3 R's of HR, which is recruitment, reward, and retain. And how do we do about it? Is we when we do for our on-roll people, when we do a hiring, what we do is we have currently deployed a 5-star rating process conceptualized and designed by Thomas Assessment, which basically is into 2 parts, which is HJI, which is human job analysis, and also personal profile analysis. So what they do is basically the candidates' behaviors that resembles more proximity towards HJA, the higher the star rating will be, and hence more suitable candidates are being identified. Also, this is followed by a well driven and written process in terms of taking it to the next level. And onboarding, as my fellow co-panelist Abhishek was talking and mentioning, the very important thing is also to make the process very seamless, because of once you offering to a candidate, the entire process today has to be IT driven, IT enabled, and make it more seamless, and also a comforting experience for the candidates that you are hiring. For also, what we have done is, as an organization, what we have done is we've started, the practice of identifying the hypos and developing a fast track roadmap for their growth in the organizations. Also, what we have done is these young resources are also identified, and they are taken through a meticulously designed process and trained to various institutes of eminence, likes of ISB and IIMs, Also, coming back to retention, it's about employee value proposition. And some of the key elements that one has seen is, apart from the material offerings like perks and wages, which are important and critical for short term, employees' growth and development is equally important. And that has to be, they have to be provided a long term strategy and shown a growth map so that they ingrain in your culture. Also, the purpose and meaning. Great organization gives purpose to the employees. That means you also link to some of the meaningful work on assignment that the employees are giving and doing and they are involved into. So that gives them a purpose that why they are in the organization. It's not like a machine, they are human beings. So they have to be made to feel that they are working for a purpose, and they are kind of aligning with the vision and mission of the organization. Also, connection. When we talk people, connect is one of the important thing. So we have to create CFT team wherein we are receptive to their ideas. We allow them to be vulnerable and share their concerns with us. And we believe in connection and connecting with all across our organization, be it our shop floor worker to the top. So we allow them to connect and be a part of one family. And also, one has talked largely about employee engagement, because you see now we're working with millennials, and they per se are one which come from a different school of thought. So of course this has to be really a meaningful engagement, which has to be undertaken across the organization, which people feel that of course this is something that they value, and see that this is really adding to their satisfaction in terms of that this is a real engagement and not something which is superficial. So clubbing all together is how we have approached the whole.
Sure, great. So I would say nurturing talent, what you just mentioned, obviously because it helps you for the upskilling, productivity, both, and also retention factor. But you also kind of, mentioned on touched upon that emotional connect, because you're dealing with with the millennials. So also there has to be that connect, engagement again has to have. I think one of the stuff you also mentioned, that you give them a clarity about the career paths. That also helps. So I think these three are the important criteria, what I could gauge from your comments here. Karthik, what about you? What are the factors that an organization should keep in mind while designing their talent strategy?
Sure. Thanks, Sumit. And I kind of echo, whatever Ashish said. I'm just trying to think different. I think to me, it all starts with company goals and objectives. I think we need to clearly understand and articulate the company goals and objectives, before we start defining the strategy for the organization. I touched upon, earlier as well, workforce planning is very important. This really helps us to decide whether to buy or build talent, right? Many a times we see that, the demands are sporadic, and we struggle on the go. But at least here in Biologics, we have a period, we have a time frame, where we kind of agree on, again, tying back to the company goals, what's the production going to be, and we kind of tie that back to revenue, and then agree on, are we going a 5% or a 10% growth, or we stay constant. So we freeze the planning at the very beginning of the year. That really helps to kind of define the talent strategy for the organization. I think a few other things I can think of. One is market pricing for roles, right? Many a times we miss this very important point in terms of what should be actually, and what is the skill we need, and what is the defining skill taxonomies, doing a job architecture workshop. And we've done a big job architecture workshop, and then we're redefining our skills and going back and moving into a role-based organization than a level-based organization, right? So these things really need to be top of the list when it's coming to defining the strategy, and tying back to right pay for the right roles for the right skill, right? So every time we go and ask our leaders what is a critical skill, and we all know that we get a list of folks who are actually we're more people driven than role driven or the skill driven. I think it's important to define those skills and then translate it to a fair pricing, and people will come and go, right? So so that we don't become a people driven organization. So that's very important. Also understanding the current talent pool. At the very beginning, I spoke about internal mobility, and how we drive that religiously, because there are certain skills we know that you wouldn't get in the market, or if you have to, hire, then you really pay a premium. Like, can you afford? How much can you afford? I think these are very important. So understanding the talent landscape, the current pool, price points, all this is required, and we need to spend a lot more on these areas to put together the whole strategy. I think Ashish touched upon a bit. So technology is very, very important in today's world. Every company is behind going digital, looking at technology. Pretty much all functions are looking at technology. So how much of technology intervention is required, which teams allot the budget. So most of the times we know that you don't get an ROI in the same year. Some of the products, some of the tools, digital solutions, what we see will take 2 years, 3 years to actually reap benefits. So now how do you convince, how do you get buy-in from your leadership, the CEO, the top ELT? I think a good amount of solutioning needs to be done when it comes to what are the tools and technologies we as an organization want to invest. Why? When will we see the outcome? I think we need to clearly define all this so that there are no surprises while we work on some of these. I think that's pretty much top of my mind, Sumit.
Great. I think some very interesting points coming out, and I think it's been quite a learning thing for our industry folks as well, to see what are some of the best practices that you just mentioned could be adopted and could be put into practice in their organization. Abhishek, what about you? What is your thoughts on the factors defining the talent strategy?
So, Sumit, at the onset, pardon me, I'm nursing a sore throat. I have a bad cold, so if you see me sniffling, please pardon me. But yes, so when it comes to defining talent strategy, I was very patiently listening to Karthik, and I think he stole my thunder, sense that there were a lot of things that I wanted to basically talk, and we spoke about those. But
anything that you like to add to? I think there's a lot of stuff covered by Ashish and Karthik.
Yeah.
So what extra that you think?
But yes, I mean, I won't get into the solutioning mode out here in terms of what the talent strategy should be. But then again, I'll stick to maybe the 6 or 7 questions that become, precursors to defining talent strategies. So, what are those 6 to 7 questions? Number one, where is my talent available? Which areas, which cities? Where do I go to hunt my talent? Number 2, are we doing enough in campuses? Number 3, how do we create a great talent experience before onboarding? Number 4, how do we create a great settling experience after onboarding? Number 5, what path are we showing to our talent so that they do not have to look outwards for growth? 6, how do we create short and long-term incentives, right, that complement a longish sort of a tenure? And by the way, when it comes to the length of the tenure, loyalty, and all of that, it's an often debated sort of a term, loyalty now. I mean, what is loyalty today in today's times? I mean, should we look at org loyalty in a traditional way, or should we look at project-based loyalty today, right? Is there a need to relook at the whole term? Because, an employee's journey will not be like driving on the autobahn, if you know what I mean. I mean, there are bound to be slowdowns. You will have deceleration. You will not grow at all times. So how do we as an organization basically drive this whole communication in a manner that is understood by a population? And Ashish and Karthik spoke about Gen Z and millennials. So in a manner that is understood by the Gen Zs of the world and the millennials of the world, that is running low on patience levels these days, right? So that's very, very important. So today, suddenly a 10-year loyalty is unheard of in today's times, right? But if you are spending, let's say, 4 years in an organization, that's considered to be good. It is really good, right? So the whole concept of how long you need to be in the system is also getting redefined and recalibrated. And finally, the sixth point or the seventh point is what is my cost of hiring, and if I'm able to find out my cost of hiring, so then and therefore with every 1% a reduction in the attrition, how much of that is equal to savings, right, in terms of thousands of dollars, right? So also, what is my cost of replacement? So is it making sense then and therefore to replace or to retain? If we have all of these questions, basically going back and forth amongst a think tank, I think that will then basically, define your talent strategy, right, for maybe the next 12 months, 18 months, or however many months, right? So I would definitely want to look at all of these 6 or 7 questions before defining a talent strategy.
Definitely. I think this also sets a bar for, let's say, next 5 months or 10 years as well, because what are you going to sow today, you're only going to reap the benefit in times to come. While the cost factor could be just immediate, maybe for next 1 year, when you talk about, as Karthik spoke about, the role-based hiring, you also look at the capacity part of as well. I think also, Ashish also mentioned something the same like that. You also mentioned the cost, but those are very interim for maybe immediate. But I think some of the initiatives that you've been talking about, some of the rules and the principles to possibly take care of by defining your talent strategy is more like how the benefits you could reap after, let's say, 3 or 5 years time frame, I think. So, yeah. Great. Coming to my last section, and we have just about 15 minutes left. I know, Karthik, you have a hard stop at 5. So, Abhishek, starting from you only, what are the trends that you foresee in 2023 around talent?
Yeah, so, I don't want to prophesize, in terms of what can be expected. But
what's your opinion? What do you think?
Because let's say, but I think these 4 things would possibly, shape the strategy for 2023 and beyond. One is make people part of a larger social cause. For example, sustainability today. So today, to be part of an organization that is on a journey to become, let's say, carbon neutral or carbon negative, I think it's a great communication. It's a great initiative that will resonate, with the working class today, right? With the people who would be looking at opportunities. So I think, the larger social cause is very, very important. I think that will, I think in 2023 and beyond, you will get to hear a lot of organizations talking about sustainability, right? Second, I think people, by and large, I don't think they want to work for a company. They want to work with a company, right? So, and I think there's
a problem. There's a problem with me.
So how do you then?
We just lost you completely. Sorry, Abhishek. I think we just lost you.
All right. Okay. So people, people no longer want to work for a company. They want to work with a company. So from that perspective, I think organizations are creating this whole tectonic shift, in terms of them creating an equitable transparent relationships, which would also mean tinkering with their organizational design. Karthik spoke about role-based structures today, right? So how do we build role-based structures today? How do we go beyond the realm of designations today? How do we build a partnering mindset today? How do we move from being a very typical hierarchical to being a very networked organization today? So gone are those days when you would end up hearing something like, well, this information is above my pay grade, so I can only help you up till here. Right now, you will not hear something like pay grade. Right now, it's expected that you have all that it takes to kind of really get things done. So, creating those equitable, transparent relationships, I think a lot of organizations will start tinkering with their existing, design org design, and they would basically want to arrive at a very equitable structure. Third, I think employee value proposition, something that we keep talking about. I think that will see a shift, into creating a total well-being proposition. So it's no longer about employee value proposition, but it's also about total well-being proposition. And I think that shift again is going to happen thanks to pandemic, thanks to working from home, thanks to everything that we've seen over the last 2 years. But total well-being has suddenly, kind of taken, sort of a front stance. Right. And last, how are we building employability today? Which means, have we started auditing our readiness to become a skills-based organization? What skills are available today? How are skills getting expensive? And are they getting expensive to buy? Which skills are getting expensive to buy? How easy is it for talent, to move within departments or within functions? How do you have lateral movements in the organization? Have we developed, a pay for skills approach? Do we have a strong framework to enable employees to kind of really develop themselves while, in the organizations? I think all of these will basically, create way for employability. And I think somewhere in 2023 and beyond, let's say over the next 14 to 18 months, Sumit, 5 years is a long time. I mean, we just don't know what's going to happen with ChatGPT, and who knew ChatGPT about 6 months back, right? So, but I'm saying over the next 12 to 18 months, yeah, I mean, these are the 4 things that would definitely, I would say, pave way for organizations to create their strategies.
Great. Thank you so much for those inputs. Ashish, what about you?
Yeah, so I think very rightly, Abhishek touched upon sustainability. That's going to be the key, and the world is focusing towards that, and all the stakeholders are seeing towards it. The other is, as one was really talking, and one knows, is it's an era of AI, which is arriving in an unprecedented way. So organization has to definitely gear up for the same. Also, I talked about millennial, and it's an age of millennial who's looking for more engaging and intuitive work. So that's where one organizations has to really gear up and think out of box of how do we engage with them. I would say that's another thing that I perceive that can be one of the key trends. So another is, as we have there has been a law which has been introduced. Of course, that code has not been new codes have not been notified. I think as India is passing through the phase of green shoots, so gig workers and gig economy would be on rise. So that's another thing to look at it and see for it, because then that will pause and create a scarcity in terms of best talents to be hired, because some of the people would prefer that one has to see of how it plays out, actually, the gig workers. And the other thing, as I say, is key shift in the skills. There will be paradigm shift in terms of key skills of the employees. Their shift would be towards critical and parallel thinking. Also, the technology use, how it is being used, monitored, and also technology design, reasoning of problems, and ideation will be some of the key things that apart from what Abhishek talked. I feel this is, and the another thing I talk about is the diversity and inclusion. That's another thing that would be a focus. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ashish. Karthik.
Yeah, thanks. I again echo Ashish and Abhishek. To me, the technology, AI, some of these digital solutions is actually going to take over a lot. And we as HR professionals should, quickly re-strategize, at workplace, and otherwise, we're going to really miss the bus, right? So things are moving very, very fast. So I keep telling my recruiters that um, uh, you're no more a talent acquisition person. So you're more of a talent advisor or a business partner to the businesses, right? So you can't just look at number SLAs and I'll work, based on my metrics, KRAs, KPIs, right? So my KPIs and KRAs are pretty much what business takes it, right? So I think we're moving. There's a huge shift in terms of how we see HR metrics today. So I think most of the organization has moved away from HR metrics and picking up business goals and metrics and translating them in many forms. I think that's the future. In recruiting, I can speak of usage of intelligent recruitment automation is going to really take over. I'm sure that there are 1,000 solutions in the market, right? Day in and day out, I keep looking at them. Starting from CV parsing to auto scheduling, there are many tools, right? So most of the admin work from HR or TA team would just move away, and the technology will take some of these, right? And then we just need to kind of use this alongside, so that we could do the business partner role much better, right? And no more admin activities and stuff. To give a simple example, Kula.ai, right? It can actually go do a deep dive of a particular profile or the profile in LinkedIn, and actually come back and tell you that these are your potential matches. I think it's moving very fast. You don't need a sourcing team, right? There are tools which is available, which will do auto sourcing, which will read your JD, which will make your JD into 5 key descriptors, and then source based on that. We'll talk to Naukri, we'll talk to LinkedIn, we'll talk to Indeed and many other tools, and then it's actually going to come back, right? As a recruiter, I come into work and I just upload the CV the previous day and then go. And when I get back to work the next day morning, I'm going to see the top 20 CVs, and it will also rank those CVs, right? Saying that this is 1, 2, 3 based on different algorithms. This guy uploaded yesterday night, so he is readily available, right? And this guy has gone and seen your profile for your company page 10 times, so that he or she is keen to join your organization. So the hit rate is high. So there's so much of analytics gone into that. I think it's important that we all adapt, we all used to it, and I think it's going to be very different. I already see that happening, and we use some of these cool tools, and we really kind of cut short a lot of time which is spent in some of the admin activities and stuff, right? So you don't have to call candidates anymore, right? So videos, the things, so you get 1.5 minute videos. You're on the car, you're at home, you can watch those 10 video resumes very crisp, and then you can take a call. I want to talk to these 1, 2, 3, 4 candidates. That's one. Ashish touched upon diversity. I think metrics like gender or ethnicity of candidates sourced. These are going to be some of the key metrics for recruiters or HR team going forward, right? So we can't restrict it to candidate source or interviewed. What is the selection rate? I think it's those we've seen those metrics for the last 10-15 years. It's going to be very, very different. The KPIs will be rewritten for most of the HR team members. So we'll have to scale up and look out for those. We're not going to, say that I need, I'm looking at women diversity and stuff, right? So we're talking about ethnicity and other things, right? So it is in the DA space, it's going to be a huge shift in terms of, how we measure some of these metrics. I think Abhishek touched upon Chat GPT. I keep a check on that very closely. You can actually go and it's going to take away a lot of work from many functions, especially in recruiting. I can tell you 60 to 70% of the job descriptions can be can come from Chat GPT. You just need to ask what are the skills required for a data engineer. You can type it, it'll give you precisely what is required. I think trends and technologies like this is actually going to really help. I don't think we should really worry about it. Many people ask me, should I worry about this? I think we should just need to see that how do I enable these technologies to kind of serve the organization better. It's going to simplify our jobs, right? I don't want my recruiters to sit and write a job description for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, right? Nobody has the time in the world to write a job description for 20, 30 minutes, right? You can ask a tool, well, the tool gives you, then great. When then you can edit based on your organization and stuff. So with that's pretty much, and I know we have 2 minutes, I'm going to pass it on to you to close, but interesting, to see some of these things. And I think we need to catch up and implement some of these things. I'm really excited to see how hiring will be done in the next 5 years.
So definitely, I think the technology is really making the entire workspace pretty exciting. But also the case that is it going to eat some of the jobs? That's always a question which looms around. You said that some of these tools can do the job what the recruiters are doing. So it's whether it's good or bad. I think only time will tell. But nonetheless, thank you so much, each one of you, for sharing your thoughts, opinions on the talent strategy. I think some very fascinating concepts, initiatives that you are all implementing in your organization, and of course, your thoughts on the future is equally exciting as well. Considering that how it's going to be more driven by the technology and how the KPIs of the HR folks is going to be rewritten and how it's going to be aligned with the business side of it. And I think what Abhishek also touched upon was on the whole cause factor, that that's how you're going to make the jobs more meaningful if you attach some cause to it. Thank you so much for your ideas. I thought we were going to talk about maybe about the moonlighting as one of the trends that may be setting in 2023, but seems like it's not happening because none of you touched upon it. Great. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.